We are ready to go. Hello everyone, welcome to Sunrise Extra on your Monday. How is everyone doing today?
Doing good, had a good weekend.
Fine.
Yes, a very good weekend.
Really?
Now it's fall.
Did you not?
Yeah, but it was fine. It was okay. It wasn't a great weekend.
I'm a huge Downton Abbey fan, so I went and saw the new Downton Abbey movie yesterday.
I actually thought there was a misspelling there.
Downtown Abbey.
Drew just got Netflix this weekend,
That's
and
true.
so he's never known what anyone talks about.
Exactly.
And now you're into Stranger Things.
Yeah, that's true. That was the
Binge
best part of
watching.
my weekend.
It's super
we
fun.
saw, well, I only saw 7. My kids saw 9 episodes of Stranger Things,
Yeah.
starting with the first one. Very good.
I love that,
Very
yeah.
good.
It's a good
so
series.
fun. Okay, one of the big stories, our biggest story today is the continued contract talks between the union of grocery store workers and stores like Fred Meyer. Now, this union covers stores like Safeway, Albertsons, and Fred Meyer, but it seems to be old Freddy's that continues to be the sticking point with a lot of the workers. So on Sunday, they announced that they want customers to boycott all 57 Fred Meyer stores in Oregon and Southwest Washington in order to support them in these contract talks. So they want higher pay, which is the biggest thing. And their second sticking point, they tell us, is a perceived gender wage gap that is going on with workers at Fred Meyer. And before we kind of get to your comments, because boy, there are a lot of them, of whether you would boycott to support this, there's been no strike happening yet. We want to run Morgan Romero's story from over the weekend. She really explains like the difference between pay in 2 different sectors at Fred Meyer. Take a look.
UFCW Local 555 commissioned an outside agency to dig into this. Here's what they found. In the grocery contract at Fred Meyer, there are Schedule A and Schedule B jobs with different wage scales. A makes more than B. There are mostly men in Schedule A, while women are more likely to work in lower-paying Schedule B jobs. That is driving a gender pay gap. Historically, women have worked in Schedule B departments, and those jobs have always been paid less. Schedule A departments include grocery, produce, cold wall deli, and beer, wine, and liquor departments. They make $17.20 an hour. Schedule B jobs include bakery, deli, cheese, coffee shop, and e-commerce. They make $13.50 an hour. This study found workers in both schedules stock shelves, prepare food, and give customer service. So the union argues they all have their own unique challenges and should be paid about the same.
I think what happened was that 2-tiered wage schedule just sort of stayed in place for a while. And then what we have, the reason that we think we're seeing women being pushed into those Schedule B jobs is just a long-term perception, sort of the collective unconscious of what constitutes women's work versus men's work. And that's just not true anymore. And the reason that we've never brought it up before is we never had documentation until this contract cycle.
More research needs to be done on the why. Is it that women are more drawn to jobs in the deli or bakery versus men? Does management funnel them into those paths? Do these jobs pay less because they're majority women? The union thinks yes to the last 2. Overall, the biggest factor in the gap is the disproportionate number of women in lower-paying Schedule B departments.
Like the 2 different pay scales. And thank you to Elizabeth Cully Prosu on Facebook. She worked for Safeway but was in this same union, and she says she is not going to boycott. She used to work for Safeway, therefore belonging to the same union as Fred Meyer's and Albertsons employees. We were required to join the union or lose our jobs. Our raises were based on how many hours we had worked since our start date, not our gender. The higher paying jobs tended to be those graveyard shifts, and they didn't have a lot of women wanting to do those, and management. If a woman wants to be a manager and qualifies, she can. So that is why Fred Meyer is saying there is no gender wage gap. There just happens to be more guys in this higher earning job sector than women.
The overnight one you bring up is an interesting point, only because I was a member of United Food and Commercial Workers Union, Local 1776, for 5 years, from 16 to 21. But you're right, those overnight shifts were basically all guys. In fact, my stepdad worked the overnight shift for like 45 years for a grocery store, and he was in charge of the night crew. And he had all kinds of stories about these guys that he worked with, a wild bunch, but it was all guys. And so they did earn extra pay because they worked that crazy shift. I always wonder why we don't get that extra pay working
like
this
an
crazy shift.
incentive,
But anyways, and I never thought about that though. You're right. So in that case, yes, the guys at that store probably as a whole would be getting more than the women if you average it out, because they were all working that one shift that automatically earns you that extra 10%.
A lot of people are weighing in on this. Sally Lavelle Clark says, yes, I will boycott as a customer. Let's see, Ariel says, yep. IBEW Local 48 Union and their families. Larry says yes. Kathy says yes. Yvonne says yes. Melissa says no. Chris says no. I do not support unions. So, you know, a lot of people. Yeah,
because a lot of the workers are saying that, you know, yes, there are these two pay scales, but why would, you know, both of them are stocking shelves and both of them are dealing with customers. So in that essence, a lot of the workers are saying they should be paid the same.
Are we getting back to, you're talking about overnight versus normal daytime?
Well, it depends on who you ask, right? You know, like their thing is they want everyone to be paid the same. But yeah, I mean, there is graveyard versus daytime. Come over here and look at this. We posted a poll on Twitter earlier this morning asking, will you boycott Fred Meyer like the workers union is asking to support their contract talks? Again, no strike has actually happened yet. I had to pick something to show you the votes so far. We have 170 votes coming in, 56% of you saying yes, you will boycott the store, and 44% saying no. Jerry Connor says, I've gone to Fred Meyer for 50 years. I won't stop now, but I will take a break until the contract talks are over. I want to give you a look at how this story is resonating on Facebook. Just in the past 57 minutes, this has reached almost 7,000 people with about 100 comments here, and we've kind of laid them out much easier for you to look at. Sarah says she's 1,000,000% in. She will boycott. Penny, nope, still going to shop there. Virginia, women pay the same for rent, mortgage, utilities, groceries, clothing, and fuel. Why should they get paid less? On top of that, there are more women that are raising children by themselves than men. Kroger is a nationwide company. All they have to do is ride out the strike for a bit, claim Fred Meyer is not profitable, and close their doors. So again, it's a lot in how it's worded, guys. So men, again, like Morgan's story showed, are more likely to gravitate towards the meat department, the grocery and produce, and these graveyard shifts, which pay higher. And women have, and Fred Meyer says they give, you know, you can work in whatever department you want to if you qualify for that. And women have gravitated more towards like bakery, deli, coffee shop, things like that, which does have a lower pay scale.
I can't explain that, and I would have to hear from maybe a female viewer who says that they actually went after one of those male-dominated positions and didn't get it for whatever reason, because I agree that it sounds to me like anyone could go after those positions. For whatever reason, there are more guys in the meat department. Every store I go into, it seems like they do. Can I just say one thing real quick? And I apologize, Corey Ann Woodard. She says overnight shifts are not all guys. There are women on those shifts. And of course there are. I apologize if I made it sound like there wasn't any, but I still feel like those shifts are definitely dominated by male employees.
And Nikki Riggs says, we will not cross the picket line. I was also informed, she says, that my company will not be sending in merchandise either during the boycott. Are you comfortable saying where you work? Because I'd like to hear that.
Yeah, what kind of products they supply to those stores. So again, like, it's not a strike, so you're not crossing a picket line per se yet, but they are asking for you to boycott the store in, you know, a show of support. So I'm just wondering, you know, where do you kind of cross the line? Is it when there's a strike? If there's a boycott, do you still shop there until there's a strike and then you really make the decision?
Michelle Loberg says perceived pay gap. That's not just perceived. Give me a break. Not perceived at all. It's equal work. And
Again,
Dan says do not cross picket lines.
Yeah, and again, as Nina mentioned, this isn't technically a picket line, but the union, just to get you up to speed if you're just tuning in, the union of the workers at Fred Meyer are encouraging everyone, us, you, other union workers, to not shop at Fred Meyer as long as this continues, as long as this struggle and the contract negotiations continues. I was shopping at Safeway last night, one of my favorite checkers there, Charles. He says to me, oh, it's going to get a little crazy here this week. And I was like, what are you talking about? I'm not even thinking about anything except getting home and going to bed. Right. He's like, oh, that, you know, the Fred Meyer struggle. He said, we're probably going to see a lot more customers this week here at our store, and he's probably right. And according to what we're seeing on our feeds right now from you guys, there are a lot of people that said they will not shop Fred Meyer until this is settled.
They say Winco, Whole
And you know
Foods.
what? That just reminded me of something. I was in Whole Foods on Friday. Let me show camera Grant here. Whole Foods has this up in their elevators, bragging about our starting wage begins at $15 an hour.
Wow.
Open to all team members in the U.S. They're doing a big hiring thing. Time to join Team Whole Foods Market. And they are touting this big job fair that they're going to be having at Whole Foods, probably trying to get a lot of the Kroger employees to come across the street for $15 per hour, because that lower wage job at Fred Meyer was, what, $13.70 or something.
You know, Warren Talbert, and again, this is one person watching us on the stream, and thank you for watching, Warren. And this is Warren's take on this, or his experience anyway, that he shares. The only way a person makes that high of a wage is if you're in management with over 15 years of service. He says that he has worked for Safeway for over 8 years. The most he's ever made was $9.40 an hour.
Wow. What is he?
Not in management, I imagine. He's saying that if you work in management for 15 years, you can make a better wage. But he's worked in some other capacity. Don't know what that is. Feel free to share, Warren. He says the most he's ever made in his 8 years at Safeway is $9.40 an hour.
Somebody else on Twitter, Sean, was saying, know the real facts, people. Don't believe everything you read. Boycotting the store actually hurts the employees you think you're standing up for. So there's something
Interesting.
Absolutely true, right?
Jamie Ralston says, let's boycott now before the workers have to strike and lose income.
But absolutely, if you were to boycott, how long will this boycott last? And if a store is not bringing in the revenue, what's the next thing that happens? They have to lay people off, right? I mean, they're not making enough money. They can't afford to pay people. So I totally agree with that theory, that long-term boycotting would hurt the very employees that you're trying to help. So,
Nikki, I asked where she worked because she said that her company may not be sending in merchandise during this labor dispute. She said, I am lead merchandiser for SAS Retail Services. We go in and do resets and remodels. We will not cross the line if there is one to perform any work.
So like shelving and display stuff. There was a viewer who was talking to me on Facebook earlier this morning before we started this show, who lives in Sandy, and he said there's only two options in Sandy. There's a Safeway and there's a Fred Meyer. And he's, you know, and they're both the same union, so if he only has two options, or else, you know, you're driving into Gresham if you don't want to cross that picket line if it comes to that with those stores. So it's kind of tough depending on where you live.
More information coming in on the feed than we can actually keep up with this morning. Honestly, I mean, I need more information on what I'm hearing from, for example, viewer Bree, who says Safeway and Albertsons will be striking too.
If it comes to that, yes.
Where was the other one?
Again, there's been no strike. They have authorized to strike if need be, but that it has not come to that yet.
Mark Dearborn claims that this also affects Winco workers, and we hear Winco as like probably the most commonly referred to alternative to Fred Meyer. He says this also affects Winco workers because they will wait to negotiate their employee contract after seeing what Fred Meyer's ends up doing.
Interesting. Okay.
I mean, there is definitely a domino effect when it comes to the industry, no doubt about that.
But boy, this has gotten the attention of everybody. I mean, just...
And Warren Talbert, we asked Warren Talbert Delivery. We said, hey, what have you done at Safeway? He says he's been a cashier, courtesy clerk, and he's worked in the meat department, one of the very departments we claimed is one of the higher paying departments. And he says never more than $9.40 an hour. I recall when I worked there, and this may have changed over the last 25 years, but the meat department was working under a different union, or perhaps an additional union. They were part of a meat cutters union, and so that union negotiated.
And that requires a lot of skill, you know. I mean, to actually, like, you know, take apart a cow, or you know, to actually butcher it. I mean, that takes a lot of skill. And like, same with working. They were saying the higher pay. One of the departments that is higher paid is like the wine and liquor and beer section. If a customer, you know, I'm cooking lamb tonight, which wine do you recommend? I mean, you could totally BS some answer, but I would assume that they have some knowledge of, you know, where these wineries are, and so that's a little extra than, you know, maybe working slicing meat in the deli or something.
So Deborah kind of has a little bit different take on this, and I feel like it's more kind of the global, bigger picture, the 30,000-foot view. She says, sorry, corporations only understand monetary loss to make a difference. So if you don't hit them in the bottom line, that's what they care about. If you do, then they're moving, you know, or moving off their position. That's what Deborah is saying on our stream.
She follows that up with, we have to stand up to union busting.
But boy, I mean, we've talked about this before. I think we even talked about this last week or 2 weeks ago when this was kind of a
people
first
haven't
topic.
really changed their tune.
Right, but I mean, grocery shopping is so kind of just personal. I mean, gosh, I go grocery shopping like 3 times a week, I feel like. I do the big one on the weekend.
Yep.
And then, I don't know what happens 3 days later, there's like no more food. It's all gone.
If we
so
really
then you have to go back. And you get to know like the checkers and the people there. And so it's just like, oh man, you know, you just get used to knowing where everything is in the aisle. And so if you're suddenly having to go to a different store.
It takes like at least half as long.
I mean, you know, I love New Seasons and Whole Foods, but I'm not going to do my full list grocery shopping there because I'd be dead broke.
Whole paycheck.
So yes, it's the whole paycheck. I mean, I'll get, you know, produce and meat and seafood and stuff there.
And kind of specialty items.
Yeah, but gosh, you have to have kind of like a big grocer to get that other stuff.
Maybe we'll go on a mass diet.
I need to go to Winco apparently. I've been missing out.
You have.
We have not
all the time.
Been.
Along the same lines, you know, and a lot of our viewers are chiming in saying they support the workers, and that's why they won't shop at Freddy's for the time being. But whenever we go into one of those self-checkout stands, aren't we doing the same thing? Aren't we not supporting workers by using those self-checkout stands? I've always thought that, like, why am I going to go there?
That's what Brenda Wood is saying. Did you pick up on her comment? She says, we keep co-signing self-checkout. This puts people out of a job too, but people don't see that.
Right.
Higher wages and higher prices.
You talked about knowing the faces of the grocery store you go to. When I see my man Charles standing down there, like, I would actually feel guilty when I get into that self-checkout if I like make eye contact, like, oh, sorry, I feel like I'm cheating on him.
Yeah.
I should have came through your line, let you check out my goods instead of down here. I never use that self-checkout.
I know, isn't it funny? We've done stories with him. I've got Jarrett, my wine guy at QFC. I've got Jose, who works in the butchers of QFC. That's, you know, the stop by. I mean, they're like, they greet you, and like, I mean, same with Fred Meyer and Winco and all those places. You do kind of get to know people.
It'll be interesting, though. So, you know, if you see yourself in an Albertsons or a Safeway or Winco and you're thinking, man, this line is longer than usual this week, now you know why.
Probably why,
You're looking probably at a lot of people that may have shopped at Fred Meyer who this week say they're not going to support the workers there.
So the latest on this whole thing is both sides are supposed to have a meeting late this week, and I imagine after that we may hear some news on whether things are going better or not, if a strike could happen, because this was this late September meeting that we were all waiting for to find out about a strike. So for now it's just a boycott of at least Fred Meyer stores. Not hearing a lot about Safeway and Albertsons.
No.
I mean, it just must be different negotiations between those stores.
Because it is the same union. Those workers work under the same union contract. And I feel like, would you agree that the sentiment towards Fred Meyer by shoppers locally has not been the same since they sold to Kroger? I mean, it does not feel like our local Fred Meyer, at least the perception.
That was a long time ago, wasn't it?
Our lifetimes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not that long ago to where there are some people that still work at Fred Meyer today who were there during the changeover.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And they say it's just not the same.
Well,
nothing is, you know. I mean, big companies own all of us now, you know. It's
kind of a shame.
It's going that way, right?
Right. It is kind of a shame.
We could keep this going based on public interest, but we can't keep this going because we have to move on with our day. We've got some Today's Show cut-ins coming up.
Have so many hundreds of comments, so keep them going. We've got that poll on Twitter. Let me know your comments on Facebook, because this is just getting started this week. Again, that meeting later in the week between the two sides, the union and Kroger. So we'll see what happens. We may be talking about this again if something happens. So guys, have a great Monday. We'll see you later. Bye.